Hey everybody, it's Maria. Welcome back to my channel. I'm doing something a little different today because I did an unboxing of this cute little caramel soprano ukulele that I bought on Amazon for next to nothing. In fact, it was nothing by the time I had my credits. This is the case that came with it. It's a very nice case and lots of goodies, as they always do, including the tuner and a nice strap. But there was something that I noticed, and I shared it with all of you when I unboxed it, is the fretboard is very dry looking. And I decided it needed some lemon oil. So I'm just going to show you what I use to bring it back to life. I don't endorse any company. I just happen to use this. I bought it. It's lemon oil, and it says fretboard. I've actually used it on other parts of the instrument. But you typically, what you'd really, ideally you would want to take all your strings off. But I really don't want to do that. So I'm going to make them slack enough to spread them apart from the fretboard so that I don't have to go through a whole string change type of thing. I hate changing strings as it is. I'm just going to loosen them up. So I will shut the video so that I could do it with two hands, and then once the video comes back, it should be completely loose and we can get to the oil part. Okay, so now the strings have been loosened enough that I can put them on the side, and as you see, they don't really stay here. So without damaging the wood, I'm just going to try to tape it if I can. Maybe just, it'll be fine just for the few minutes it's going to take to do this. Should be fine. And again, since it's such an inexpensive instrument, I'm not too concerned. I mean, would I do this with an instrument that costs a lot? Most likely take the strings off. But in this case, let's cut some corners. Now you can really see how dry that fretboard is. Wow. So the lemon oil should really help. And something else I want to share with you afterwards too, that I noticed some of the screws were a little loose here, or are a little loose, and it's okay, you know, even if you're not a luthier, you can still tighten these things up and it'll help with the tuning pegs and, you know, keeping the strings from strings from slipping and things like that. So let's get started with the lemon oil. So I would follow the directions, and it just says it's shake well. So let's shake it. Okay. And of course it says remove the strings, and it says apply a small amount on fretboard. Okay, so. And you really basically are going to go fret by fret. And you're going to take a clean, I use an old t-shirt, clean t-shirt, old t-shirt, and you're just going to have it absorb it, you know, basically. You put a little more maybe where you think a little does go a long way, but because it was so dry, I want to really make sure I get the whole thing covered. And you know, then you'll have to pretty much let it dry before putting the strings back so that the strings don't get all oily. Okay, and you're just going to keep doing that. You know, maybe push them down a little bit. Like that. And boy, you could really start to see the difference. I mean, I know it's not dry, but look at that. Can you see that? Let me make sure you could see it. Okay, so I'm going to shut this off because it'll be just boring watching me do this. And then we'll get to the screws. And before I tighten the strings, I just want to show you, I did it twice. It's so much better. It's probably hard to see on the camera, you know, on a video, but it really feels so much nicer. And you can see the grain. There is a sweet looking grain on this fretboard, which is very nice, like a little lighter up at the top. That's not dry, that's just a lighter grain. But hopefully you could see from the first part of the video the difference. So I did it twice, you know, let it dry in between, and I'm gonna let this dry. It's mostly dry already, see? But I'll just give it a few extra wipes of the dry cloth just to make sure. And I'll tighten the strings, and I'll show you what I'm talking about with the a lot of screws here and what you could do. Okay, tuned her up, and you know, even though I only have this less than a few days, like less than a week, it's really starting to stay in tune nicely, you know. And the more you play it, the more quickly it will stay in tune. And these are fluorocarbon strings, so I like them a little better than the Ukulele. They're a little easier on my hands, or I just like them. They're not as thick and like rope-like, you know. They feel a little thinner, and with that, it just feels a little easier for me to play. Anyway, what I would do is, I don't know if you could see, there are a lot of screws here, okay? The main two that have to do with tuning has to do with the big one with the gears, okay? So if these two, or four rather, are loose, then it's going to slip when you turn this, because it's going to affect this gear being nice and tight. You just want this to spin, not this. So you want to take a, you know, a Phillips head screwdriver, and you want to just, this might be a little big, and you just want to tighten that, you know, just not crazy. Just make sure they're nice and snug. Especially if you start to feel like they're slipping. Like I said, this is a little too big. I would go with a smaller size. I just grabbed that one for now. And then the little ones that can be a pain are these are like eyeglass screwdrivers, and they're good for these tiny screws because you want to make sure, actually this one's too loose, okay, so I screwed up on both counts. But you want to get a screwdriver that's going to fit these little ones, and just make sure, this is just what holds it onto the, you know, guitar and headstock. So you just want to make sure that they're nice and tight. I don't see a problem, so it's fine that I don't have the right one on hand right now. So those are the only two other things you might want to take into consideration if you're having trouble with the strings, if they're slipping, or having a trouble keeping them in tune, you know. And other than that, I think this looks great. I look how nice it looks with the strings on it, and you know, doesn't feel dry anymore. And I would do this again maybe in a month or so. I mean, who knows if they had it sitting in a factory or something, you know, where maybe it was, you know, not getting the proper humidification or something like that. So, you know, just take that into consideration, especially when you're getting an instrument that's such an inexpensive instrument. As I said, I wish you could have seen the instrument that I got my sons when they were younger. And of course, they're 30 and one will be 26 on Friday, where I'm going back many years. We're going back probably, you know, 28 years ago, maybe when my son was 2, my older one. I got him, I don't even remember the name of it. It might have been a Hohner. And it was expensive. It was $30, and it wasn't a kit. It was supposed to come playable, and it just wasn't. And so to think how far we've come, where you're not only getting a really playable ukulele, and I'll play a little tune, but you're getting the case, and you're getting, you know, the strap buttons, tuner, extra strings. It's, to me, it's incredible what they can do these days. And I'm sure that other one was also made overseas, so you can't just blame it on that. I think there's really been, they've really come a long way in the production and the type of instruments they're producing and the quality control. So maybe the stigma shouldn't be there as it used to be in the past. I mean, many really great companies are starting to do that for their lesser expensive line of instruments, because it makes it more affordable for the average person to pick up an instrument and play. So here you go. I'll shut this off and just set the camera so you can hear a little tune.
Baby face, you've got the cutest little baby face. There's not another who could take your place. Baby face, my poor heart is jumping. We sure have started something, baby face. I'm up in heaven when I'm in your fond embrace. I didn't need a shove, 'cause I fell in love with your pretty baby face. I fell in love with this little baby face. It's so cute. And the more it stays in tune, oh, the more I like to play it. It definitely has a wider neck than some of my other ukuleles, even though this is a soprano. That's very good news for me. Wish me luck, trigger finger surgery next week on this thumb. All right, see everybody. Caramel melts in your mouth, right?